All right, what is up, my brothers? So in this video, we got a request from a French entrepreneur who wants to ask some questions about having kids. He really wants to have kids, in fact. So let's get started. Chuck it up on the screen, and it goes on to start with context. His name's, we'll just call him JP, a 36-year-old French entrepreneur. I do online consulting and make around 120K a year. I now live in Minsk, which is in Belarus, a city I know very well, for I've traveled there many years. It was my dream to come and live here and escape the EU. He says, I'm single. For the last 3 years, I focused on setting my business plan and making plans to move abroad. I have game, used to spin plates when I chased tail over experience. So until 33, my areas of improvement would be social status here in Belarus, other than being a foreigner, and my physique. I'm average, not jacked, but on my way. And he links his social, which I will not open on the screen. I did take a look at it. There was only one photograph. It's kind of like the standard French guy sitting in a high-end restaurant with like gold trim curtains and expensive china that he's pouring tea. He looks like your average French dude, not particularly, strong and jacked and masculine, but like an average sort of French guy as he purports here. So he goes on with number 2, problems and questions. So I really want to have children, and I'm wondering, at 36, I need to settle ASAP, or can I still focus on my work and enjoy being a bachelor? I know I'm not a woman with a ticking biological clock, but here's why it bothers me. Here in Belarus, people get married by 20. By 36, most folks are either divorced and in a second marriage or have 2 to 3 kids. I've dated many girls 10 to 12 years younger, but if I wait until 40 plus, it'll take a 15 to 20-year difference to meet a young fertile mother. A single girl of 26 plus here always means something very bad is up. So if a woman is 26 and single in Belarus, that's bad. Okay, that sounds reasonable. He says, is it reasonable? It somehow seems too much to ask the universe. He says over here, you mentioned your content that one has to vet very carefully for potential mother stock, which I fully agree with, and regularly mention a 2-year living together period. It doesn't have to be a 2-year living together period. I mean, if you're going to have kids, you should probably live together. Like, let's just be honest about that. It only seems reasonable and logical. Yeah. The 2 years is really just to establish that she has more of the bright triad traits and not the dark triad traits. She can deal with conflict and life's difficulties and doesn't throw hissy fits. And, that's something that you can establish over a couple years of dating. You can't establish that over 2 weeks or 2 months of dating. You're just not going to get an accurate representation of what you're dealing with. So I should start vetting now because I'm already 36 and it's getting late. Question. All right. I'm also asking because I feel I have to strike a deal quickly, which is never a good position to be in when doing business. Yes, I view mating as a business relationship. All right. So I'm going to deal with this more towards the end. So let's see what his third point is here. It says bonus. The idealized unicorn. That's never a good start. Some other thing tempers with my decision making. I've known a girl when I was working in Ukraine 3 years ago. Nothing happened between us. We've just been writing to each other regularly. She's 23, cooks, works as a school teacher, religious, doesn't post bikini pics on the internet, and has genuine desire. She's cute, but not beautiful. I'd say a 6 to a 6.5. I didn't do anything earlier because I was chasing more beautiful girls and considered looks only. My aim was multiplying short-term relationships. Now that I'm pursuing excellence, I want something more in a woman, and I feel she would be a good mother. So dude's essentially saying he's going to lower his attraction floor standards from, I don't know, he's calling her a 6 to a 6.5. Let's say he only deals with 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s, whatever. So he's saying, I'm going to lower my attraction floor because she looks like good mother stock. All right. Problem is, I keep idealizing her and a possible family life together, which seems like a big lie. I'm serving myself. Yes. Don't idealize. Guys, let me say this again. Don't idealize anything with women, okay? You can have an ideal and you can have standards, for yourself. You can have standards for what it is that you expect out of a relationship. You can have her respect you, obviously. But don't idealize unicorns. It doesn't end well when you do that. It's always a bad idea. But he already knows that because he's saying right here, it seems like a big lie. I'm serving myself. So, dude already knows this. He's like, let's just run it up the flagpole and see if we can get rich to salute this thing. And it's like, he already knows it's bad to idealize women, right? I keep thinking she's somewhat of a unicorn, but not like others, blah, 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 although I know there's no unicorns. Like a price tag of $99, I know it's $100, but I think, oh, that's a bargain. I'm going to her town to meet clients in 2 months, and I'll see her later. Am I setting my own death trap or any advice on that? Well, you're setting a death trap if you plan on knocking her up and having babies with her on that trip in 2 months. Yeah, I mean, you don't know her, first of all. It says that she's basically a pen pal, is I believe the way that you described it. She's 23, cooks, works as a... Now, here's the other thing that I should point to, because I mean, we're almost to the end of this thing. You said she's 23 and she's only a 6 to a 6.5. Dude, by the time she gets to 30 or 40, and you guys have had 3 or 4 kids together or something like that, the way you've described her, she's probably going to start looking like your standard, like Eastern European babushka, right? I don't know. Is that what you're attracted to? Is that what you want to be on a long-term basis? I mean, women's looks are generally on the decline. Like 23 is generally as good as it gets. Okay, that's when women peak. Men peak more towards their mid to late 30s, sometimes even early 40s if they really take care of themselves. They got good genetics. They hold on to all their hair, sort of thing. You know, guys' SMV can peak much later in their lives. But she's basically, her peak is a 6 right now, and you're saying that that should be good enough. Only the question that you should be asking yourself is, are you going to be okay with her looking like a babushka when she's 40 or 50 years old? Or maybe even sooner, depending on what her genetics look like and what her lifestyle is like. It doesn't sound like you're that attracted to her. Anyway, Town, Death Trap, thanks again for your work. I've understood the value of chasing excellence over women not so long ago, only 3 years, but it changed my life in unforeseen proportions. So, I don't know, like this is mostly a question about his age. Like he feels like because he lives in Minsk that he's at a disadvantage at 36. And I like, look, dude, I know lots of guys that live in Eastern Europe. I know lots of guys in Russia that live there, don't live there, like in these Eastern Bloc sort of countries. And I get it. Yeah, you know, the women there, they're generally more feminine. They're less left-leaning. They're more agreeable, generally speaking. But all that beauty comes at a cost, if we're being honest, because like Eastern European women are, I would say they're harder to manage, right? They're less forgiving. They have strong and high standards. Although if you're a top shelf guy and you've got good game, they can be loyal as hell. Eastern European women will definitely be on a balance of probabilities more of a ride or die kind of girl than you will get from a Western woman. But anyway, back to the point here, because I mean you're talking about this 23-year-old in Ukraine, and your question really is tied around, you know, do you need to settle down ASAP? No, you don't need to settle down ASAP. I mean, honestly, you could have a family at 40. You could have a family at 45 if you want. The problem that you're starting to run into, which is sitting in your blind spot, which I don't think that you acknowledge that we should talk about, is that as you get older, as a man, you ut less energy and time and patience dealing with small children. I think I was 35 or so, maybe 36, when my kid was born. And my brother's in his 40s now, and he's got 2 small kids that just arrived, basically. And dude's exhausted. You have kids, I mean, yeah, you can have kids in 40, you know, 40s and 40, 45, 50, so, you know, so to speak. But if you're going to be doing any of the parenting, and I don't know if you are because you haven't stated this. I don't know if you're like, look, I'm going to go chase excellence. You stay home and raise the kids. And then I'll sort of take over when they're like more 7, 8, 9, 10 and, you know, do more masculine, you know, pursuits and like show the difference. Like, I think generally speaking throughout history and in the more conventional sort of like societies today, women do more of the child rearing up to about the age of, let's say, 7 or so. And after that, it tends to change and it goes into father's hands. So, I mean, like the thing being with all this sort of stuff is you got to realize that it's kind of transitionary. But if you're expecting to, or she's expecting you to do a lot of the parenting, I'd get it out of the way sooner rather than later because you don't have a lot of energy for it. I'm telling you right now, I watch my brother, dude is exhausted. And you know, it's just more of a handful dealing with stuff like that. I mean, well, it says over here 2 to 3 kids, so you're talking, let's say 3 kids. Yeah, you're going to be dealing with a handful. So there's that you got to contend with. As far as the social norm in Minsk about having kids by the time you're 20. Okay, for women, sure. Maybe for some guys, maybe for for some plugged in dork guys that are like all about societal convention sort of things, sure. But there's lots of women that get with older, successful guys. Doesn't matter if they're 40 or not. They'll just get with them. It doesn't matter. Like, men are success objects, women are beauty objects. Women carry, the children, so the burden of childbirth and fertility obviously falls more on their shoulders than men's shoulders, which is why a 45-year-old guy can have children with a 25-year-old woman. Ideally, I think the epiphany phase probably happens sooner where you're at. Generally speaking, in the West, it's like 27, 28, 29 or so. Women start feeling their biological clock ticking and they want to start settling down. For some women, it's in their late 30s and they're just not plugged into reality. But if the epiphany phase happens younger for women in Belarus around 20 to 23, that's great. That's actually perfect for you. So I would say that's an advantage more than anything. So you find a 23-year-old, let's say you're 40, there's a 17-year difference. It's a bit of a stretch. They've concluded based on data collected, it seems like most successful LTRs for parenting kids usually have about a 7 to 10 year age gap between the man and the woman. So, you're 35 and she's 25, something like that would be more ideal. But I think that, again, and I've talked about this before in a video or maybe several videos on my podcast, but guys love complicating their lives and justifying why they do it. So it's like, I have this, that, and the other thing, and I'm 35. And it's like, dude, stop, like driving yourself insane. Guys will spend more time, if we're being honest, evaluating and comparing their next vehicle than what they will someone that they're going to put babies in to be the mother of their kids. And I don't care if you get married, you don't get married, you live with her, you don't live with her, you run a harem. I don't give a shit. None of that stuff matters. The point that I'm trying to make here is that men love complicating their lives and justifying why they do it. You can structure your relationship any way you want at any time in your life that you want reasonably. I mean, obviously, if you're 70, then that's completely absurd. But at any given time in your life, the more successful you are, the greater your wealth is, the more value that you're going to bring to the table, and the more that society and women and her family will overlook. You have your income up here, online consultant. So $120,000 a year, I'm assuming that's euros, is not that much. I've challenged guys this, and I've been challenged on this, by guys that consume my content. They're like, "Oh, you're out of touch, with reality, Rich." When I say men should ideally be millionaires by the time they're 40, the latest. Ideally 30, if you can. At $120,000 a year doing consulting work, I doubt that you're worth a fortune, which is why you're probably asking these questions. So your ROI is going to be better served on increasing your income. Make 240, 340, 560,000, $1 million a year. You've got a net worth of 7 or 8 figures. Not all of this stuff evaporates. None of it matters. Honestly, dude, none of it really matters whatsoever. But you're constraining yourself to a little box because of where you're situationally, sitting right now. You're not, one of the things that you mentioned is that you're obviously doing well as far as income. You get dates, you've spun plates, you've got social status that you need to improve slightly, and then you say that your physique is average, not jacked. And yeah, I mean, if you looked better and had more money, none of these questions would be coming up today. You wouldn't have sent this email. You wouldn't have paid for this request. It wouldn't even cross your mind. You would have just carried on doing what you're doing and not asked for anybody's permission. Because this is really what a lot of this is. Again, run out the flagpole. Let's see if he salutes it, sort of thing. And you know what? You want to come at this from a scarcity mindset, which is what you're using right now, then yes, go get married right now. Put some babies into 25, 23-year-old 5 or 6 or whatever that's in Ukraine that's not going to be particularly hot in a few years. Go do that now if you want. If that's really what you're feeling, the pressure to, because you're running out of time or you're running out of options. Your options are as limited as your status. And if you can improve your worth, your ROI is a lot more useful in that, because you'll create more options. Your access to beautiful, fertile, young women that are willing to be in your frame, that respect you, that want to have a family with you, broadens dramatically as your value increases. So why are you considering a average looking 23-year-old from Ukraine right now? This is where you are. You want a broader dating pool of more attractive women to date? You know, make yourself more valuable. Hold out to the public that you're, you know, in the top 1% rather than being in the top, I don't know, 25% or something like that. So yeah, that's my view on that. You're looking at this from a scarcity mindset. You want to look at it from an abundance mindset, create a more abundant life. Anyway, I'll leave it on that note. Anybody got experience on this one? Chime in below. Leave the video a like, and in the top pinned comment, there's some useful links for things like my book. You should definitely read The Unplugged Alpha. It's also on Audible. Coaching for one-on-one, my supplement line, all that good stuff. Check it out. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.